There's a woman who drives a 2014 Hyundai Elantra to work every morning. Small scratch on the bumper. A parking sticker from 2021 still on the windshield. Her colleagues assume she's doing okay, maybe saving a little, nothing remarkable. They invite her to group lunches and split the bill evenly without thinking twice. I mean, what they don't know is that she has $2.9 million in index funds. Her mortgage has been paid off for 4 years. She could walk out of her office today and retire comfortably for the rest of her life. She chooses the Elantra on purpose. This isn't a story about being cheap. It's about understanding something that most people spend decades never figuring out. In Canada, research consistently shows that the majority of high earners drive Toyotas, Hondas, and Fords, not BMWs, not Mercedes, regular cars that blend into any parking lot. Meanwhile, a significant percentage of people earning modest incomes own luxury vehicles, spending $65,000 on cars while making $55,000 a year. One group looks wealthy. The other group actually is wealthy. These are rarely the same people, and today I'm going to show you exactly why and what the quietly wealthy understand that almost everyone else never figures out. The people who actually build wealth behave nothing like the people who appear wealthy. Thomas Stanley and William Danko spent decades studying actual millionaires across North America. Their findings dismantled almost every assumption people carry about what wealthy people look like. 80% of millionaires are first-generation affluent. They built it themselves, inherited nothing. Half have lived in the same house for more than 20 years. They are more likely to drive a Ford than a foreign luxury vehicle. The researchers found them disproportionately clustered in middle-class neighborhoods, not affluent communities. This surprised even the researchers who expected the opposite. The explanation is simple. High-income professionals tend to devote their income to luxury goods and status items. They're playing a visibility game. They want everyone around them to know they've made it. Actual wealth builders play a completely different game, and they've done the math on why. Warren Buffett still lives in the same Omaha house he bought in 1958 for $31,500. Jeff Bezos drove a Honda Accord for years while building Amazon. These aren't people who couldn't afford better. They're people who decided that looking wealthy isn't worth the cost of actually being wealthy. Sociologist Thorstein Veblen introduced the concept of conspicuous consumption over a century ago. His central observation was that people don't just buy products for utility. They buy signals. Luxury brands aren't selling materials. They're selling narrative. A $45,000 watch tells time exactly as well as a $45 watch. The extra $44,955 buys something else entirely: the ability to signal status to the people around you. Research shows that people who view money as a symbol of power and status report lower levels of financial satisfaction. They buy expensive things to impress others, often without monitoring their overall spending. And the irony is brutal. The pursuit of appearing wealthy actively creates the conditions that prevent actual wealth. Every leased BMW is a monthly payment that could have gone into a TFSA. Every designer item is shares of index funds that weren't purchased. Every status symbol has an opportunity cost measured in decades of compound growth. Looking wealthy makes you a target in ways most people never consider. High net worth individuals are significantly more likely to experience identity theft than the general population. Security experts call these whaling attacks, meticulously crafted operations where criminals assemble profiles from social media, data breaches, and publicly available information to impersonate trusted advisors, bankers, or family members. They're designed specifically to target people who signal visible affluence. The Federal Trade Commission reported Americans lost over $10 billion to fraud in a single year, with investment fraud schemes specifically targeting visibly affluent individuals. Looking wealthy advertises exactly what you have. Looking ordinary protects it, but the social costs compound just as powerfully. When you drive a luxury car, people assume you can afford expensive dinners. When you wear designer clothes, colleagues expect you to pick up the tab. When you live in an affluent neighborhood, the baseline spending of everyone around you silently inflates your own expectations. and it happens so gradually you never notice. The person driving the ordinary car maintains something that money literally cannot buy. Authentic relationships based on who they are, not what they have. Nobody treats them differently because of perceived wealth. Nobody resents them for having more. Nobody questions whether their friendships are genuine. Research consistently shows that high net worth individuals frequently report a paradox: increased power paired with decreased trust. They can never be certain whether someone likes them or their money. The quietly wealthy person who looks middle class avoids this problem entirely. Their relationships were never filtered through the lens of perceived financial status. The authors of The Millionaire Next Door created a framework that permanently changes how you evaluate financial behavior. PAWs are prodigious accumulators of wealth. UAWs are under-accumulators of wealth. These categories have nothing to do with income and everything to do with behavior. A janitor earning $50,000 can be more of a PAW than a surgeon earning $600,000. Spending habits determine the category, not salary. Here's the formula: multiply your age by your pre-tax annual household income. Divide by 10. A 40-year-old earning $130,000 in Canada should have approximately $520,000 in net worth. Those below this threshold are underaccumulators, spending their income rather than building wealth. UAWs live well. They're often highly educated professionals in demanding careers. They understand compound interest intellectually. They just don't practice it behaviorally. Their spending is driven by what researchers call the better than theory, and better car than the neighbor, better watch than the colleague, better vacation than the sibling. These are called million-dollar choices, because if the choice hadn't been made, if that money had been invested instead, the person would have over $1 million more. The difference between consistently choosing the $30,000 car over the $80,000 car, invested over 25 years at 7% annual returns, is approximately $270,000. That's the real price of looking wealthy. The practical advantages of invisible wealth extend into every financial interaction you'll ever have. Negotiation becomes dramatically easier when the other party doesn't know your financial position. A car dealer treats someone in a 2014 Elantra differently than someone in a current year Mercedes. A contractor quotes differently based on the driveway they pull into. A service provider calibrates pricing based on perceived ability to pay. Warren Buffett noted that he never worried about being overcharged because nobody knew he was wealthy. His modest appearance gave him negotiating leverage that flashy consumption would have completely eliminated. Looking wealthy invites premium pricing across every purchase you make for the rest of your life. Looking ordinary receives standard pricing. Over a lifetime of purchases, this differential accumulates into serious money. The person who looks wealthy pays an invisible wealth tax on everything they buy. The person who looks ordinary pays the regular rate. The employment dynamics favor invisible wealth equally. Colleagues who perceive you as comfortable treat you as an ally. Managers who see you as financially stable respect your confidence. Clients who perceive you as modest don't resent your fees. The quietly wealthy employee has an extraordinarily powerful position: the security of not needing the job while appearing to need it. They can take career risks that financially desperate employees cannot take. They can negotiate from genuine strength while appearing to negotiate from need. Here's something most financial content never discusses, and it matters enormously. Research from The Millionaire Next Door found a consistent negative correlation between receiving financial gifts from parents and accumulating personal wealth among adult children. The more adult children receive, the less they build themselves. Parents who display visible wealth face constant requests for financial support. Children grow up expecting inheritance rather than building their own foundation. Extended family members develop resentment or expectations based on perceived financial disparity. Parents who look middle class while being quietly wealthy can provide support strategically when it genuinely matters, rather than under constant social pressure. Their children develop self-reliance because they don't know a safety net exists. Family relationships remain uncomplicated by visible financial inequality. This is one of the most underappreciated gifts that invisible wealth creates, not just for the wealth builder, but for the generation after them. Let me show you what the numbers actually say over time. Someone earning $200,000 annually who saves 25% accumulates $50,000 per year before investment returns. Over 25 years at 7% average returns, that grows to approximately $3.4 million. Someone earning the same $200,000 who saves 5% while spending the rest on visible consumption accumulates $10,000 per year. Over the same period at the same returns, that grows to approximately $680,000. The first person looks middle class. The second person looks wealthy. The first person actually is wealthy. The second person is financially fragile. After 25 years, the invisible wealthy person has 5 times the net worth of the visible spender, 5 times the options, 5 times the security, 5 times the freedom. The visible spender has memories of nice things, a wardrobe of luxury items, and stories about expensive experiences. Both made choices. Only one made choices that compound. The 2014 Hyundai Elantra in the parking lot represents something its owner's colleagues will never fully understand. It represents a choice to value compound growth over social approval, a decision to build real security rather than display status, an understanding arrived at early and maintained consistently that looking wealthy and being wealthy are not just different things but competing things. A 2025 Empower study found that 62% of everyday millionaires still budget, still shop deals, and deliberately avoid extravagant lifestyles even after crossing the $1 million mark. The habits that built the wealth are the same habits that preserve it. The cultural tide is slowly shifting, and stealth wealth is becoming a form of its own social currency, a quiet signal visible only to those who understand it. The practical advantages of invisible wealth compound across every dimension of life. It protects your assets from people who target visible affluence. It preserves authentic relationships. It gives you negotiating leverage in every transaction. It protects your children's motivation to build their own foundation. It provides psychological security that doesn't fade with hedonic adaptation. And it frees up capital that compounds silently into genuine financial freedom. The cost is minimal. Some people will underestimate you. Some people will assume you have less than you do. These are features, not bugs, because the goal was never to impress people you don't know. The goal was always freedom. Every person who quietly builds real wealth understands something that most people spend their entire lives never figuring out. Wealth isn't about what you show, it's about what you keep. If this reframed something for you, subscribe. Every week, the math and the behaviors that actually build financial freedom. No noise, just clarity.